Good morning and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It's been a while since I've been on. Didn't think I'd be back this soon, but I'm delighted to be here on a Monday morning and joined by no other than Chris Jack. Chris, how's your weekend? How you doing?
Weekend was okay. Any weekend with a Rangers win is always a good one. Slightly better than the weekend the fortnight previously. So it was all good and nice to have you back on with us, Euan. Good to see you.
Oh, that's nice to hear, Chris. It's not often I get that in the company, so it's nice for a wee compliment for a change. There's loads of comments coming in about Stevie. I think Stevie is back from his holiday and he will be on later in the week, but you'll have to persevere with Chris and I today. Seems like every week it's a big week for Rangers, Chris, but another one coming up, the start of the Europa League campaign on Thursday night. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but we'll start on the weekend and the St Johnstone game. Chris, you were there. I watched on TV. Now kind of dust is settled from that. I know you done the live reaction immediately after the game, but what is your kind of takeaways from that?
I think it was a job done for Rangers. Not perhaps a job overly well done in terms of performance, but on the face of it, two good goals, a clean sheet, 3 points. No, it's ticking some boxes there for Rangers, but also huge negatives in terms of the injury to Danilo. There's no update on him yesterday, unfortunately. Hopefully, I'll try and get something on him today. If not, it's Wednesday afternoon by the time the manager speaks ahead of the Betis game. I think Michael will be pleased enough with how Saturday went. He would have been well aware that if Rangers had dropped any points, the pressure on him would have been huge. All the focus for being on his position and his future and whether he was going to continue as Rangers manager. So I think that the win takes a bit of the heat and the sting out of the situation. Performance, I thought, still leaves a lot to be desired. And going forward, Rangers definitely do need to be a lot sharper and a lot better in many regards.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I think going into the game, a lot of people, obviously 3 points, was a prerequisite. Rangers need to get the points on the board, especially after the previous game. But a lot of supporters wanted the performance to follow it, and yeah, I'm not really sure that happened. I thought Rangers had a lot of control in the game. They did limit St Johnstone to very few if any chances. But I mean, in terms of kind of the free flowing football and the style of play that Rangers fans want to see, it wasn't really quite there, was it?
No, I don't think it was a game Rangers ever looked in danger of losing. As I say, St Johnstone offered very, very little. I was actually messaging a St Johnstone fan that I'm friendly with last night. It was like, why didn't they come and have a bit more of a go? Now that Rangers defence, or Yilmaz coming in, Ben Davies making his first start in a long time. That Rangers defence, especially with the anxiousness amongst the crowd, Rangers looked not ripe for the picking, but looked as if you came and had a go at them, then you'd be able to ask them some testing questions. It just never happened. St Johnstone never really got going, looked in damage limitation mode from the start, offered very little threat. And as you say, Euan, I thought Rangers had a lot of control in the game, certainly had a lot of possession, didn't have as many clear-cut chances as we expected. I thought they did get slightly better in that last 10-15 minutes or so. It was better from Rangers by that time. The game had opened up a wee bit. Matondo's on using his pace. I was going to see him on the other side, and I thought Rangers looked a bit of a threat. But overall, it was a bit stodgy at times, and not the, as you say, not the free flowing stuff that Rangers fans were maybe expected. But ultimately, it was 3 points and down the road.
Yeah, no, completely. Looking at the game as well, I mean, you caveat that with St Johnstone did sit very deep at times, and it can be difficult to play for you. To expect a different sort of challenge on Thursday night against Betis. Talking about Yilmaz there, he came in for Borna Barisic. There's been a lot of talk about Ridvan Yilmaz the week previous after he was, left out the European squad. Do you feel that was Beale giving him an opportunity to show what he can do at McDiarmid Park? What do you make of his performance? And would you, obviously Borna Barisic will come back in on Thursday night because Yilmaz can't play, but do you maybe see moving forward that they could rotate between Barisic and Yilmaz for European and domestic games?
Well, we really need to see what Yilmaz is made of, not just in terms of a cameo coming off the bench or a start like he got at the weekend. We need to see what he's made of over 10, 15, 20, 25 games. We need to know if this boy is capable of being the next first choice Rangers left back, or regardless of what happens with Barisic, if that's an area of the squad that has to be addressed. I thought he was okay at the weekend. Strange, the first 10, 15 minutes, nobody wanted to seem to give him the ball. He had acres of space out on that left-hand side, but everything that Rangers had was coming down the other side. So it was hard for him to really get into the game. Second half, it was fine, steady. Not really tested defensively at all, just because St Johnstone offered very little threat. But going forward, steady, if unspectacular. So hard to read too much into it. I think the main thing Yilmaz can take from it is game time under his belt. It's good match minutes for him. It's done the job in that regard. In terms of next weekend and going forward in the domestic games, is he the man to fill in that left back slot? I would doubt it. I think Barisic has had a steady enough start to the season. He'll also come back in on Thursday night. Barring anything strange happening, I think he's still your first choice left back domestically going forward. But it was a good run out for Euan. I think it's done the job for him. And I say we need to really see how he can kick on from here, because it has to be a longer term thing rather than just 90 minutes up at McDermott Park.
Yeah, completely agree, Chris. Just on Barisic generally, you look at his contract situation, he comes up at the end of the season. I mean, would you envisage that there will be talks taking place in the coming months? I mean, I don't imagine Rangers, it's not a priority given the fact that, he came in for, £1 million and he's been a good servant over that time. He's definitely represented value for money for that. But do you think there'll come a point where, Borna Barisic could be a Rangers player next season and beyond?
As you say, I don't think it's the most pressing matter at the front of Michael Beale's mind or the football department's mind. There's far bigger issues at play. I think John Lundstrom's in a similar position, and both those situations are different from. We've spoken so much about the contacts of Kent and Morelos over the last couple of seasons. Those situations were more pressing because of their value in terms of resale. If they could have tied them up, potentially sold them on and made a bit of money on them. That's not really going to be the case in terms of Barisic. Even if you signed another 2-year contract, you'll get your £1 million back. You're not going to go and sell them for 7, 8, 9, like they could have done potentially with Morelos, Kent, or Kamara. His contract situation changed as well. So I don't think it's the most urgent of things that needs addressing. But overall, I think he's been okay this season. I know he's perhaps one that's got a bit of scar tissue amongst the fans and has been involved in too many sore ones if the fans to forgive. Some of that's been his fault. Some of that is just a product of a situation he's found themselves in. The team's not delivered over the last couple of seasons, but he has been a good servant for the club. I think he likes it here. He gets it. But ultimately, are you saying Barisic will be the Rangers left back 3-4 seasons down the line? Probably not. At some point, there is going to have to be this changeover and transition into a new, longer term solution there. If it's Yilmaz, Rangers already have him in the building. If it's not, they need to then move Yilmaz on and find a proper replacement, as they will have to do over the next couple of seasons at right back as well. And those two full back berths, not the biggest concerns for the manager, but something that over the next 18 months or so does have to be on the radar.
Yeah, I don't think Barisic represents a kind of long-term future for Rangers at left back. But I mean, certainly I think he's been decent this season. He's came up with a number of crucial assists as well, which he's always capable of that left foot, isn't he? It's maybe defensively that the question marks have certainly been over Borna Barisic in recent seasons. Another maybe surprise. There's quite a few surprises on the team sheet, wasn't there, when it came in? Michael Beale has notoriously kind of chopped and changed his team throughout the season. It'd be interesting to see if that will, settle down as after the kind of hectic start, which was the kind of first part of that. But Ben Davies came in for John Souttar alongside Connor Goldson. I thought he had a decent enough game at McDermott Park, and it's another one that'd be interesting to see if Michael Beale rotates there or he sticks with Davies going to Thursday night and moving on. Goldson and Davies actually have quite a good record domestically when they play together. what did you make of Ben Davies' performance? And do you think that's a sign that maybe he'll be having an opportunity now by Beale to impress after he's had injury problems at the start of the season? I think he is fully fitting through them now.
I thought his performance was steady enough. I thought he came in and done well. Myself and Josh spoke on the video last week about our predicted team lineups. Neither of us had Ben Davies in ahead of John Souttar. I don't think many people would have had Davies in ahead of John Souttar. But John didn't have the best of afternoons against Celtic. Has been okay throughout the season. And I think people just assumed that partnership between him and Goldson would get the chance to continue and get the chance to continue to evolve. As you say, Euan, the Goldson and Davies partnership does have a good record domestically. I know the fans were really keen for another centre-half to come in during the transfer window. It was something that obviously didn't happen, and it wasn't really something that Rangers were ever close to. And Ben also spoke about his own situation after the game as well, and he was one. I think if the potential move to Stoke that we reported in the last couple of hours of the window, if that had gone through, Rangers then would have had to have moved and brought in another centre half. He's still a Rangers player, clearly still part of the manager's plans, and it is an interesting call now on Thursday night. Now, do you bring Souttar back in? Do you stick with Davies and then try and give him a run and hope that those performance levels are there, and that can then lead into results? Because the manager has spoken about the defensive record and seems fairly content with the chances and opportunities that Rangers are giving up. So, I'm interested to see how he plays it on Thursday night, and also how Ben Davies, if he does get the nod, how he then copes against a far higher calibre of opposition.
Yeah. Guys, let us know in the comments who you'd prefer to start against Betis on Thursday night. Would you pick Davies or Souttar? Because I think it's quite an interesting debate. I've seen it raging on social media over the weekend, and just looking at the comments there, some people like Davies and some people like Souttar. So do let us know in the comments. And also, if you are watching as ever, if you hit a like on the video, it does help us. So please smash that like button for us. The Davies one, I think it was no secret that if the offer arrived in the summer, Chris, that Rangers would have let Ben Davies go. There's been a lot of criticism over Davies and the fact that why didn't he want to leave? But ultimately, he probably backs himself to stay at the club and fight for that starting berth, which is fair enough. If he backs his ability, that's what you want to see. He clearly wants to play, and also I think sometimes people don't look at the kind of off-field stuff and being happy in Glasgow and family situations and things like that as well. I mean, criticism over Davies maybe comes from aerial ability. He can be bullied a little bit at times as well. But from my point of view, I think Souttar's been good for maybe 95% of the games this season, but he's had these mistakes in quite a lot of games which have directly led to goals. You especially look at, I think he gets caught under the high ball sometimes. He misjudges that, and that's been a weakness in his game. How would you look at it? Into Thursday night, put you on the spot here. I mean, who would you start against Betis? Would you go with Davies or would you go with Goldson? Would you go Davies or would you go with Souttar alongside Connor Goldson?
I think Goldson definitely starts unless the manager's feeling really ambitious. I think it's safe to say that Connor Goldson starts. I think in terms of Davies and Souttar, if another centre half had been signed in the summer and he came in and played alongside Goldson and both of them had found their chances limited, I don't think either of them could have had huge complaints. I know John had a run towards the end of the season. So he got his goal against Celtic, which is a big thing for him. I think he's had a decent start to the season, not been great, not been one of the stalwarts of the side, but you're then talking about a side who have had very few stalwarts. I do like John Souttar as a player. He's good on the ball. He's got a lot of attributes. He was a good signing because he also ticks the Scottish box in terms of European squad as well. But I do just wonder if having that Goldson-Davies partnership gives you a better balance there. I know that's something that the guys are also commenting on. I just think there's more of a balance there with the two of them. That's not to say that Ben Davies is a far superior centre half to John Souttar. I don't think he is. And as he mentioned, there's criticisms over his physicality and perhaps being out-muscled and bullied too easily. And that's clearly a failing of his game, something he has to work on. And if he is going to really establish himself at Rangers over the next 6 months to a year and longer term, he is going to have to work on that. But I don't think there's a standout option, and no matter who plays alongside Goldson on Thursday night, I don't think it comes as a massive surprise, regardless whether it's Davies or Souttar. So interesting to see what the manager does, how he sees it, and what his reasoning is. But I think if you have to do a straw poll, I think it'd be fairly close. I don't think there's a standout option there, and that probably tells you where both of the guys are in terms of Rangers' careers.
Yeah, a lot of comments coming in. A couple of interesting ones as well. Could we see a back three used? Michael Beale has spoken quite a lot about this in the season here and there. He's kind of dropped it in that he might move to a back three at times. I suppose Davies being fit gives you that better option. You could play Souttar at right centre back, you could play Goldson in the middle, and you could play Ben Davies as the left centre back, and having that left foot provides that balance there as well, and it would allow you to maybe get Barisic and Tavernier higher up the pitch. It's almost impossible to predict Michael Beale's team selections this season, so it's hard to say what will happen. But is that something you can see? Maybe not necessarily used on the Thursday night, but perhaps, but certainly throughout the season.
It's something the manager, as you say, Euan, he has referenced it a few times and has been spoken about a few times, but it's not something that I've actually seen that often. He's also had the international break, so he'll be able to tell us if that's something that they've worked on over the course of the break. But you do wonder if they were going to do it on Thursday night, then why not give it a dry run up at McDermott Park? I think it would be a bold move to suddenly go in and do it on Thursday night. And I think if they are going to do it, you do it properly. And as the comment said there, you do it properly and you have three centre halves. It's not some halfway house with John Lundstrom going in there, because that experiment has been tried and doesn't work. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lundstrom start on Thursday night, but it shouldn't be as part of a back three. If you're going to go for that setup, it has to be Goldson with Souttar and Davies either side, and as you say, it allows you to get the full-backs higher up the pitch, try and use their attacking threat and attacking talents. But there's also questions over so many areas of the side. Who starts in midfield? Does Ryan Jack come back in? Does Cifuentes come back in after being rested at the weekend? And of course, who gets the nod up front now that Eddie Neal was likely to be out? So it's the manager has chopped and changed the side throughout the course of the season. Still just looking for the setup in terms of personnel and approach that's going to click and get the best out of Rangers. We're still waiting to see that happen. If it's to come on Thursday night and they could get a big result at Ibrox, it could be the one that just really kicks Rangers on over what is a hugely significant and important run of fixtures for them. Yeah.
While we're talking about centre backs, Chris, it's obviously poignant to say that the Rangers Review sends their condolences to the family of Ronnie McKinnon, who sadly passed over the weekend. Obviously, a fantastic player for Rangers and also for Scotland. He picked up that injury, didn't he, on the way to the European Cup Winners' Cup win in '72. I think it was against, was it Lisbon? I think he might have picked up the injury. But a colossal player for Rangers, Chris, and I'm sure you'll echo that statement.
It was sad news when we heard yesterday. Also, word started to filter around yesterday afternoon that Big Ronnie had passed away. It's been a privilege to get to know a number of the Barcelona squad over the years, and guys from that era. They just represent the club in the right way. They've got a stature about them, they've got a personality about them, and their legacies will live on, and that's certainly the case for Ronnie McKinnon. As you say, Euan, a fantastic player for Rangers and for Scotland, and we'll have a piece on the website within the next couple of hours from David Leggett giving his memories of Ronnie as a man and as a player, and as you say, they'll certainly pass on our condolences and wishes to his family and friends and all the guys from the supporters club that he was also such a huge part of. I know they had a do up in Lewis and Harris. They had a do for him on Friday night, and it's just tragic that he's passed away just a couple of days after that. So I'm certainly sending our condolences to everyone that knew Ronnie, and I say his family, friends, everyone from that supporters club.
Yeah, total gentleman, Ronnie McKinnon. So that's sad news. Our condolences go out to his family, and like Chris said, there will be a piece on the website just paying tribute to Ronnie in the next couple of hours. So do check that out, guys. In terms of other things that we perhaps learned from the weekend, when Danilo came out and Chris said at the start of the show, we hope to have an update on him maybe today, or if not, it'll be the press conference on Wednesday with Michael Beale. It's also a huge blow. There's no point speculating over how long he'll be out for, given kind of severity of the injury. It's better to be clear and concise on these sort of things. Was it a surprise that Cyril Dessers didn't come on, when Danilo came off? I certainly maybe expected that, but again, Michael Beale did mention, I can't remember exactly when it was, but he said that Abdullah Sima's best position in his view was in a more central area. What was your take on that kind of substitution? And again, I'd maybe perhaps expect Dessers to come back in again against Betts. I don't know how you feel on that one, Chris.
I was surprised that Dessers didn't get the nod at the weekend when that change was made. You think he's more of a like for like replacement for Danilo. Zima offers something different in terms of being direct, in terms of being pacey, but the manager did say that they're also looking to exploit the gaps in that St Johnstone defence. Game changes when you go 1-0 up, and I think he felt that Sima was obviously the better option. I thought he played okay again, like a number of players, not outstanding, certainly not terrible. That probably sums up his Rangers career so far. Sima, he's shown flashes. There's been moments. Obviously, his goal at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago certainly it stands out. We need to see more of that from him. If it was to get the chance to play on Thursday night, what an opportunity it is for him. A full house, under third lights, big European game against a really good side. If he can go and perform in that type of occasion, that type of arena, hopefully that is then the spark for his Rangers career. Personally, I would go for Dessers because I think it's the type of occasion that he really needs to rise to as well. You saw Danilo get his chance at the weekend, took it, and also just unfortunate the way that his afternoon ended. It's a big chance if Dessers does get the nod on Thursday. Again, what an opportunity it is for him. He needs a goal. He needs a performance. He needs to show something to get the fans back on side. He's become one of the targets of the support in the first few weeks of the season. Perhaps unfairly, I think. He also had some injury issues at the start of the pre-season. It's clearly taken him a bit longer than I'm sure he would have wanted, and the manager would have wanted for him to get up to speed. But what a huge chance it is if he does get that jersey on Thursday night. If he can get a goal, hopefully that can just be the moment for him. But it's just a huge blow that Danilo's not there. So I thought he's the man that everybody has been counting on over the last few weeks. And such a lot of excitement when he came in, spending the money on him. Not had a great start, but the manager has mentioned that he's had issues to deal with. He's not went into detail about what those issues are. But the piece that I've got on the website this morning goes into Danilo, how I see him fitting in, and why I think he still looks like the main man for Rangers. If Rangers are going to have a 20+ goal a season striker this year, it's going to be Danilo. And I think that partnership with Kamal Roof has got a lot of potential as well. Such a shame that we're not going to be able to see that over the next couple of weeks, and we can only hope that the injury that he has sustained, as bad as it looked at first viewing, and it did look a real sore one on Saturday, also been for surgery. Hopefully it's just a couple of weeks. He can maybe get back playing with the aid of a mask, if that's going to help speed up the recovery. And we really need to see Danilo back fit, firing, and most importantly scoring goals over the next few weeks.
Yeah, do go and read Chris's piece on the website about Danilo just now. I think when the images go around, it didn't look great, does it? And they circulate social media, but you don't know these things, how the operation went. So it's a case of sitting away, isn't it? And hope it's not as bad as it certainly looked to the weekend. It was a fantastic header from Danilo. He was brave. I think it was Liam Gordon. Liam Gordon is going for the ball. It ended up not a great challenge because he does head to the side of his face rather than the ball. But it's all disappointing, especially clearly you could see him on the ground as well. He didn't want to go off, did he? But there's no doubt he simply had to go off, given the severity of the problem. A good question came in here about Sam Lammers, Chris. How does Lammers fit into the team? I still can't see what he offers. It's a fascinating one with Lammers, isn't it? Because in pre-season, along with Jack Butland, he looked Rangers' best player. There was real promise going into the season with Lammers, but there's no point sugarcoating it. He's just not delivered, has he? It's bizarre because technically he's got all the assets. He could have 2 feet. He can move the ball quite well. But I don't know. It's just not happened for him at all. Where do you see him kind of fit into this Rangers team, and do you see him coming good eventually?
Well, he has to, doesn't he? That's
yeah, he does.
If you're Michael Beale and you've spent the money on him, you put a bit of faith in him, you really need Lammers to come good. Right now, if everyone's fit and everyone's available, I don't think he gets in Rangers' best side. I know there's still this debate over what his best position actually is. Played from the right at times. At the weekend, he's been used as a number 10. I don't see him being a natural number 9. Doesn't carry enough of a goal threat for me. Has had his chance in the Old Firm game that he squandered. And it's really strange, because as you say, I thought pre-season he showed up well. There was glimpses there, and there was bits where you could think, no, this is the type of guy that could fit into this team, and the fans were starting to kind of see what they liked. I think that number 10 is in his best position, but is he the best option that Rangers have in there? You've now got Tom Lawrence coming back in. It's good to see him getting some game time under his belt. Once Todd Cantwell's fit, I think that's his best position as well. I think he's wasted playing slightly further back, especially when Rangers have options in the middle of the pitch. So for me, it's hard to see that Lammers is as a starter. If he does get the chance on Thursday night, we really, really need to see something from him. Now, if you're spending money on the likes of Dessers and Danilo, you're spending the fee to get Seam up here on loan, spending the money on Lammers, you're not doing that just to have comfortable wins at Ibrox over Livy or to go away to St Johnstone and win. It's Old Firm games, it's big cup games, it's European games. We really need to see the value from these guys. Personally, I wouldn't start Lammers on Thursday. I wouldn't be completely surprised if the manager does, but it would be a real show of faith in someone who so far has yet to live up to the expectations.
Yeah, he's been poor so far. There's no point getting away from it. It's just strange for me. Michael Beale, he spoke about, Lammers was the first player he spoke to in the summer about coming to the club. He went over and met him, so he clearly wanted him at the club and went to great lengths to bring him to Rangers. And listen, there was that kind of excitement in pre-season given his performance levels, but he's been miles off it. He's not impacting the game. He shows nice feet at moments, but he's just really not impacting the game. And like you said, it would be a surprise to see him start on Thursday. I think he might. I'm not sure Tom Lawrence will play again, given how long he's been out for. I can see you maybe disagree with me on that one, Chris.
No, I think that's a fair point. I think if Lawrence was fully fit and he'd had a couple of games more under his belt, I think he then is probably ahead of Lammers. The Cantwell injury just come at such a rotten time for Rangers now. He's the most effective option they have, I think, in that number 10 role, but obviously missing for another few games yet. And it's come at a time where Rangers need as many creative influences, they need as much guile, they need as many goals in the team as possible, because the manager has referenced the shots that they've had. He's mentioned the XG. All of that's fine to a point, but the most important stats are the league table. They're sitting 4 points behind Celtic, and that's also not acceptable. During this run of domestic games, we really need to see performances, results. We need to see goals from this Rangers side, and not having Danilo and not having Cantwell is also two huge blows. If you are now Dessers or your Seamer, or certainly if you're Sam Lammers, now's the time we need to see you. Now you've had your settling in period. You know what the club's about now. You've had your pre-season. You know what the manager's demanding from you. Now's the time to go and deliver. Because I think the jury has probably delivered damning verdicts on a number of these guys so far. Yes, we're only 2-3 weeks after the transfer window's closed. You just don't get time at Rangers, and if the guys that have come in didn't understand that before they put pen to paper, they should certainly understand it now. I think the manager almost said that himself the other day as well. The time for talking, the time for excuses is over. You've had your chance to settle in. Now we really need to see the best of you. And in terms of Lammers, there's a lot of improvement to come. So if that does come on Thursday night, well, there's no better time than the present.
Yeah, completely agree. So lastly, before we finish up, we will talk more about the Betis game throughout the week. Though I'll talk about it all today and have repeat ourselves throughout the rest of the week. But Riley Matondo, again, he showed what he can do, didn't he? It's an excellent finish, I think, as well. And I was reading Josh's article on Matondo last week, speaking to his former coach at a team in Belgium, and he mentioned that he thought Matondo simply has to play on the left-hand side, and also he's developed that finish where he kind of opens up his body and slots it in, the sort of Thierry Henry sort of finish, I think the coach called it. So I think Ryan Kent leaving the club in the summer has maybe not helped Matondo directly, but indirectly with opening up that left kind of wing position, because he does seem to put in his best performances. I'm thinking when he came on against Livy, he played off there, against Morton, he played off there as well. He does seem very much suited to that side.
I think it certainly opened up an opportunity for him, and probably Sakala leaving as well. Now, Michael then needed someone that can play off that left-hand side. I said Josh Horsley had that piece from the Bruges manager last week, and had another Matondo piece on the website over the weekend looking at his contribution off the bench. As I said to Josh in a video on Saturday afternoon, if Rabbi Matondo turns out to be a player, I won't be the only one that's eating humble pie over the next few weeks, because I say last season I just didn't see it at all. I was amazed that he's been given the chances at the start of this season, but fair play to him, he's taken it. The finish last season, there's no chance he scores that. He puts it high, he puts it wide, he tries to square it, he does anything but slot it in that far corner. And you look at the goal that he scored there, the one that he got against PSV at Ibrox, if he can add that finishing touch, if he can go and do that another 8 times over the course of the season, that's then a big contribution from someone who we were expecting very little contribution from. So I think it's really interesting how he's managed to come onto a game. There's also a bit of confidence in there. There's a bit of faith from the manager. Maybe is it an arm round the shoulder? Is it a kick up the backside? Only Rabbi and Michael will know what the approach has been. But whatever it has been, it's clearly worked. We're now seeing what Rangers must have saw last summer before they signed him. We're now starting to see what various other clubs and coaches and managers have seen in Matondo's younger years. He's clearly got something. Is he going to be a mainstay in the Rangers side that wins the league? I still remain to be convinced. But if he goes on to do that, then great. Fair play to him. And what a transformation, what a turnaround it would be in terms of a man's Rangers career. Completely.
He's got to play off the left for me. I don't see him. I don't like seeing him playing in other positions. I don't understand why you wouldn't play him anywhere but the left. That's where he's suited. He's good coming in. He can threaten in behind, and he's got that finish as well. So to see him anywhere other than the left for me is a big no-no. But I don't know if I still view Ryan Matondo at the moment as an impact player. I think he's brilliant coming on when the game opens up, and I'd probably expect to see him continuing that role. When he started, he's not had the same impact. Certainly, as when he comes on and delivers that from that side. But I think that's all, folks, for today. Thanks for everyone for joining us on a Monday morning. Hopefully, we've cheered up your start of the week, and you can get on with your day very well now. Chris, thanks very much for joining me. I was supposed to be off today and not feeling 100%, but you've made my morning every little bit sweeter by your company. I do appreciate it. So I think we are both back tomorrow, the usual time, 9:30, where we'll probably talk about things completely different, hopefully, than we've talked about today. But guys, everyone, thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll see you tomorrow.